Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Twilight Zone review. Today it is Season 5, Episode 7, The Old Man in the Cave, written by Rod Serling and starring John Anderson as Mr. Goldsmith and James Coburn as Major French. This episode is a mixed bag for me. There are things about it that I really like. I think the premise is really interesting and well set up. Unfortunately, I do have some issues with the execution and some of the logic behind the ending of the episode, although I think the twist is somewhat clever. I don't think it completely works in the context of this episode, and I will explain that as I go through it. So we start with a shot of a horse pulling a car, which is interesting. That's a great visual start to the episode. And there's these people, a group of people, and they're talking about an old man in a cave, the title of the episode, and they're waiting for a man named Goldsmith who's talking with him to tell him what to do about food and how to survive. We find out that these people are survivors from some kind of war. They don't say exactly what happened, but it seems like there aren't that many people left around different parts of the world, but these are survivors. So then Goldsmith comes and basically tells them their instructions, and this is a good setup for the episode. It's very interesting. So things seem to be okay, and then a group of soldiers come in led by a Major French, and him and Goldsmith talk as he asks who's in charge here. And Goldsmith basically tells him, we don't recognize your authority. We've had other groups similar to you come in. We already have someone that we listen to, and it's the old man in the cave. But Major French isn't going to take no for an answer. He actually hits him, and he hits him, it looks like, pretty hard. This was a pretty convincing scene, so we know that the Major means business. So both men are basically just sticking by their positions at this point. So we go to the next scene, and the Major says, we're all going to go up to this cave, and I'm going to get to the bottom of this, as he's starting to get annoyed. But the cave is closed off, and Goldsmith says he can't open the cave, even though I suspect he can, which we'll find out to be true later. He says the old man in the cave just sends me messages. I don't, really know what's going on. So he's not cooperating at all. And the Major thinks this is nonsense, so he tries to literally blow up the door, but it does not work. And this actually amuses the people from the town, who all kind of chuckle about it. So that part was interesting. So Goldsmith just continues to stick with his story about what's going on. But the Major shows the people all the food there. He says there's nothing wrong with it. Don't listen to this man in the cave. He's imaginary. He doesn't exist. And he eventually convinces the people, who you have to think are pretty hungry and thirsty by this point, to eat and drink. And I have to say, this is where the problems in the episode start to creep in. Can you really blame these people? I'll get into more of that at the end, but it seems like these people are being reasonable under the circumstances for my satisfaction. So the Major and Goldsmith just have another discussion, and they disagree again. You can tell neither one is going to change their mind about anything. The Major just believes the whole thing is a big scam, and Goldsmith really believes in this old man in the cave. So eventually this leads them to go back up to the cave, as all the people pretty much force Goldsmith to go there, as they're starting to listen to what Major French says. And when they get back up there, Goldsmith pleads with them not to do this, to open the cave, but ultimately he's pretty much forced to, or it looks like they're going to just mob him and overthrow him, basically. So when Goldsmith does finally open the cave, it looks like there's some kind of secret way to open it, which was pretty cool. He opens it, and the old man in the cave is some sort of computer or machine. So the Major basically tells everyone, this is it, it's a machine that you're all been worshiping, and he tells all the people to basically destroy it. So they basically go and destroy this machine. They beat it with sticks, they throw rocks at it, they basically topple it over. And at this point, the Major says, you're all free now. But then we cut very abruptly to a scene that didn't really work for me, and everyone is lying dead, basically, except for Goldsmith, who's by himself. And he says that man's faithlessness has destroyed them, and maybe this is the destiny of man. And then Rod Serling talks in his closing narration about how greed and imperfection can be man's undoing. Some of my problems with this episode: first of all, this computer, does it run itself? Is it some kind of special computer that has powers or something? How does it know all these things? Doesn't someone need to program it? I didn't really get that. Another thing, by making it a computer that everyone's supposed to be listening to, is Rod Serling telling us that we are supposed to trust in machines. It seems like that's kind of contradictory to some of the other messages in the episode about humanity. I don't really totally get that. And another thing, isn't calling the people greedy, isn't that, I mean, he used the word greedy, isn't that a little harsh in this situation? Shouldn't these people have some questions based on their situation? I mean, it's good to believe in things, no doubt about it, but isn't there a balance there? Don't we sometimes have to question to learn? That didn't really sit right with me. Others may find it to their satisfaction and love it. To me, there's just too many contradictions there and not enough balance. This seems like one of those times where the writer just used this twist as something to push their own message without really earning it the way it was written. I hope that makes sense. So all in all, this episode is mixed for me. It is thought-provoking, which is good and could generate discussion, which is always good, but some of the logic behind it just doesn't work for me. So I give The Old Man in the Cave a 2.5 out of 5, but I do recommend watching it and seeing what you think, because I think opinions will vary greatly both ways on this one. For me, I'm in the middle, and I give The Old Man in the Cave a 2.5 out of 5. As always, thank you very much for watching.